Well, welcome to this week's Develop Download with Chris Brown and myself, Danielle, right? Every Monday, we have a great little topic, something that's either bubbled up for myself or bubbled up for Chris, or we've been a part of conversations with other people we know, and we want to talk about it with you. And so this week's kind of bubble moment is leadership, kind of about
Mm,
leaders, founders, brand growth, because Chris and I spend a lot of time and a lot of specialization in that micro emerging brand space because Brown builds businesses. We're hitting up against some roadblocks with some founders that are also the leader of their organization. So we want to make sure that today we talk about three things, right? And out of that is like leaders aren't always founders. So how do founders become leaders is the topic, right? And so with Develop Academy and Develop Plus, we provide these platforms to educate yourself to various situations, role play as we may for those leadership skills. We also help develop talent and be stronger in their roles to support those leaders and making those decisions. And then Develop Plus is our community where you can go chat through what's going on and get real-time answers from others that are in and around where you are doing the same things you are. So I think it was really important for us to kind of create that platform. But today we're really talking founders, leaders, and what that looks like. So Chris, the first point that I think we're going to talk about is founders. The definition is kind of they build, right? They built the thing, they found the widget, they mass produced it. But leaders scale it, take it to the next level, like we're playing a video game. So kind of what made this be the thing that said, hey, I want to talk about this today? You were sitting with something, thinking about something. What inspired you to say this is the topic we're gonna talk about today?
awesome. Hey, Danielle.
Hi,
Great to
Chris.
be here. Happy Monday. I am, so we kind of suss these things out before we actually hit the on button here. I love the story before the story because a lot of times kind of evolves into something even greater than it ever was when it started. And you're right. I woke up this morning, I was already kind of thinking of, okay, what do we talk about today? And I was reflecting back on something that actually landed in my lap about 2 days ago. Again, it was a brand from the past, and I'm not going to, name names or anything like that, but because they've had some good stuff happen to them in the past couple of days. However, looking back on those days when we were a part of the inside story, it was about leadership. It was about making decisions. And this brand had tremendous potential, and it wound up stalling. And it wound up stalling as a result of leadership. So I said, okay, how do brand owners become leaders? And how do they develop leadership skills? And what happens if they don't, right? I mean, I'm citing that as the example. So we
Happens a
know what.
lot. Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
it does. And you and I have been involved with brands that have had really strong leaders that have been, made great decisions. They've surrounded themselves with really strong people. I think really good leaders surround themselves with people who are better than them. And I've seen that happen, and it's turned out really great. And I've had some situations where leaders didn't, and they were inconsistent about their decisions. And it really, it damaged the brand. Brands, leaders have to be decisive one way or the other, and they have to be consistent, and they have to fuel that consistency, and then they have to be willing to say no. And that's, I think, the killer when you have the fear of saying no. And when they don't say no, really, people who aren't supposed to be in the seat get into the seat and become franchisees, and that damages the brand down the road. It ends up being more of a painful experience than it ever really had to be. And I think that talking about this, trying to figure out, where do brands or where do brand owners go to acquire these skills? Can they acquire these skills? Do they have to be born with it? Or where do they get in the batter's box, as we say, and get that kind of experience that they need to be a stronger leader?
It's hard to do that, right? So the second point of all of this is kind of like the identity shift is the hardest part, right? So I think founders think that they can be leaders because they are founders, but sometimes you're missing that key component of honestly a disconnect. Like it's hard to disconnect yourself from being the hustler, the operator, the problem solver, because you wore all of these hats to get it from zero to hero, all on your own or with very few people. But then you forgot along the way how to perfect making decisions because you had to just in the moment, make a decision and hope it worked. And it's kind of like I've got a senior in high school and he's big into science and it's that whole hypothesis stuff that we all learned about. Like you test it and you have a hypothesis and you test and you test and you break and you test and you break until it actually, as a founder, you're used to doing that. So you have to make those decisions. But as a leader, you are no longer just yourself. You are no longer just the problem solver. You're no longer just the whole single operator. Like leadership requires becoming more of an architect. And like you have to think bigger and you have to think longer term when typically you're a founder, you're in the moment making those split decisions. You have to be a good communicator. What's the difference in a communicator with a leader versus the founder? And they're not always embodied in the same person. Like it's really, really hard to do that. Right. And so you have to communicate, you have to be a driver, you have to inspire people. The business got to where it was because of you, but it's not going to get there if you don't have that leadership component, right? Like that ability to get others excited about those future goals, but not just excited, direction, right? Like we're not talking
Mhm.
just decisions of the yes or no, but where am I going? Why am I going? Who am I going with? Are those the right people? So oddly enough, you had a story. I had something that came up today that was kind of where you question a founder slash leader, right? It's a brand new brand. They just started selling franchises. And I think hiring is probably one of the hardest things to do as a founder and a leader because you're trying to align with certain people and you may find a great person for you. But the aha moment today is that you hired someone that is representing your brand to
Mhm.
outside people, not just candidates, to the broker community, to the franchise community. And that person has, let's just say, not the most stellar of backgrounds or pasts. I'm a person who raised my hands like we all have done something stupid. We've just been smart enough not to get caught, right? Like, let's just throw that out there. But as a leader, that's like your first sign of like what you're doing, founder, leader, trust, and brand growth is who you're hiring, who you're aligning with. And not that this person isn't great, but you better have a dash gun good story saying, yes, I hired this person to do this job and I stand behind them, even though they may not have the best, it's the word that I'm looking for.
Track
They
record,
may
background,
they may not
past,
just have
yeah.
the best integrity level. And so, again, I'm always up for giving people second chances. But as a founder and a leader, I feel like you can, and I may be completely off base, and I would love anyone to comment on this. Who teaches these people how to hire? Like, where do you learn to go hire the right person? Where do you learn to ask the right questions? Where do you learn? It's hard to do that because you're in such a run and gun situation to get the business going. But you also want to be like a strong leader. Well, strong leader, to your point, has to say no. Sometimes the no has to be, I love you. I want you to work for this company, but there's so many reasons why you shouldn't.
And then they may make that decision and stand by it.
And that's the bigger piece. Stand by your decisions. I feel like there should be a song in the background playing like stand by your decisions, not your
Yes.
own. Please, I hope someone edits that out. And if they don't, then guess what? I'm not a singer, nor should I ever be. But
And we'll dub something in. But, I think your intention is great, and I do believe that when people make those kinds of decisions, their intentions might be good too, right? But
right.
they're in a different role now. They're not the person that built the model, was on the front lines, making the chicken sandwiches, checking people out. They built the model and now they can replicate it. Now they're stepping into brand ownership, not just unit ownership. And so
That's
the responsibility
cool.
is greater.
Yep.
The bar rises and it rises almost immediately. And so, who they align with, like you said, is critical.
Because wouldn't you think, and I'm just spinning this around with you, if you've taken your own operation and turned it into a franchise, and now you're wanting to package this business in a box and sell it to somebody, you're telling them to follow the systems, the processes, and the procedures. You're
Mhm.
now the litmus test of what success looks like, right? So I should do everything you do. But if you hired a person with less than stellar background, credibility, integrity, you basically are, it's like a child and a parent, right? Like do as I say as I do, don't do as I do, or whatever that whole logic is like now you're saying it's okay for me to go do it. But it could have disastrous ramifications for me as a franchise owner that it didn't for you because maybe you knew how to manage that. But again, as a leader versus a founder, like you're saying, a founder's out there flipping the burgers with you. So if you want to put your gloves on and put your apron on and flip some burgers with me, let's go. But as a leader, you have to think about all of the various impacts your decision has and for long term success. And so we'll talk about here in a minute kind of some things to like with leadership and founders. We're not ever saying that a founder shouldn't be a leader, but a founder needs to have, my 2025 word was awareness. They just need to have awareness. Like if you can be self aware, you have been given the skill sets that you have been given and know that you can learn more and be better, or maybe I can't. Okay, great. Sometimes the decision is understanding when I can't do something and when's the right time to bring somebody in, right? To kind of help you lead that ship and grow and scale that business. So after our first 2 points, our third point go around is leadership is learned, not assumed. Tell
Yeah.
me what you think when I say that. What does that mean to you?
When you say leadership is learned, not assumed, I mean, I think, we're not born with it. I think that there are skills that we're going to acquire. But I just attended a brand conference for an annual conference for a brand last week. And the speaker was, I think, what do you call himself? An athlete business owner or something like a
Okay.
business athlete. That's what he said. There's when you're part of a team and you're part of a system and you're part of a formula that works, being an athlete, that's a transferable skill. You have a structure, you have a method by which you do things, and you have a code by which you live by. And that's kind of what this person was conveying to us in the room, was that there are things and tools and systems that we can acquire early on, and that does transfer into leadership, and it does transfer into becoming the leader. I don't think it's something, I think we're born with certain skills. We might not be born with leadership skills, but getting into the situation where we have to make those decisions, getting into the situation as a leader where we have to select a national buyer for our brand, or whether we have to get in and hire someone that has great character, that's going to lend themselves to the building of the brand. All those things can happen, but they happen in real time as you are the leader. So I think it's a muscle that can be developed, yes, but I think it's one of those muscles that needs to be developed in the game, literally.
Yeah, muscle memory, right? Like we were talking before we got on here, it's you don't set out to be a bodybuilder and say, "Poof, I'm a bodybuilder." If so, there's some drug or something, please let me know. I'd love to build that.
Yeah,
But
unfortunately, there is, but it's not legal. So
it takes repetition and setting the goal and showing up, and it's like you can learn how to lead people. It's not just tasks. It's not just saying do as I do, right? Like it takes a little bit of, you say muscle memory, and I say it takes a little bit of awareness to understand what true good leadership is. There are plenty of books on leadership. Oh my gosh, there's plenty of books. But
yeah,
to your point, you can read all of that stuff and still not know how to implement it if you're not in the moment practicing it, right? See one, do one, teach one. I
yes,
found that's always really worked for me in a lot of different categories, as painful as it is. Like when I first learned to do franchise sales, like I had to record it, someone had to listen to it, they played it back for me. I had to listen to myself, which, God, anyone listening to this, poor you, you're listening to my voice, right? But that's why leadership is learned. I think it's more of it can be perfected, even though you're never going to be perfect at it. I feel like it can be something that is perfected, just trial and error, and be okay as a leader. And this is where leaders are different, is they will say, I don't know what I'm doing, but
yeah,
I'm figuring it out. And
yep,
that's the biggest piece. So
teachable.
founders don't automatically become great leaders just because they built something, right? So they have to learn how to lead people. People, people, people. You're always going to hear that this is people. Build teams they trust, kind of like you said about like the athlete. Like when you're on a team, someone's handpicked that team a lot of the time, and you're there, you have to trust that they're going to catch the ball or they're going to keep the really big guy off of you, right? Like, going to get smashed by that person. No, it's my job to make sure you don't get run over, right? And the big piece about point number 3 that I wanted to make sure that we hit on, that is definitely a difference between, or the progression of a founder to a leader. Wait for it. Let go of control.
Yes, yeah,
That is a word I have found as I have aged that applies to so many roadblocks in career development and people development and growth of something, is the letting go as Elsa and Anna would love you to do. If you're a Disney fan, you know what that means. Let
Or a
go,
dad, a
control.
girl dad, something like that too,
Yeah, girl dad would know if they've watched enough of that, but control. What does that mean for a founder to let go control to become a leader?
We could delve into this and have another 30-minute piece here if we wanted to. I think when a leader lets go of that control, it's usually because they trust themselves and they trust the people around them.
Okay.
And that's something that's
Full
come
circle
from,
moment, right?
yeah,
Learn
that's
how to
come
lead
from great,
people, build
great
teams.
leadership.
Yep.
And I think that's, I've been in the presence of some really great leaders. I've been in the presence of the inverse of that too, the opposite side of that too. But the really great ones, give us hope for those others that are still evolving, right? And, it may not be this brand that they learn it. Fortunately enough, I think there are enough skilled people out there to show someone what it really looks like to be a strong leader. And also, the arena that we were talking about earlier, putting people in the arena, in the space where they can acquire those skills, where they can learn from those who are really good leaders. And I think that, it's a nice little segue into what we're doing here.
Yeah, it's that I guess a lot of people say is that iron sharpening iron, right? And I understand it, but in a bigger picture world instead of something so like tangible, it's how you only can get better if you let down your guard and allow others to help you. And again, back to the awareness. Be aware that I built it, and just because I built it doesn't mean I was always meant to be the person that takes it to the next space. We all want to be, right? But I've seen so many like you, so many organizations that the founder has stuck around for a really, really long time because quite honestly, they don't know what to do if they don't have it. And you'll find it's like that whole close a door, open a window, close a door. That will happen for the founder. The founder will then turn into finding that there are places for them to do great things or continue to be part of a group that says you should do this to be able to scale. The leader then becomes the person that takes that vision and implements it into a strategy for long term. So in franchising specifically, if a founder doesn't evolve to that leader role, what have we seen historically happen? Just kind of stalls itself out, right? Like they just don't
Yeah.
grow.
The
If they
brand, it
grow,
kills
they
the
lose
brand.
owners. Yeah. They
It kills
close
the brand.
owners.
Yeah.
Like it just, so if you really were meant to build it long term, then I just firmly believe the leadership will find you or you'll seek support to be a better leader. You'll seek someone else to take over that leadership role and turn into what they like to say the visionary space to where you still can say what you want to say, but someone's going to make sure that it's implemented and that everybody's bought in and all of the things are good. So you were about to make a segue to what we're kind of doing. I don't know that either one of us knows what the heck we're doing, but we're doing exactly what we tell people to do. Like we surround ourselves with industry leaders, we ask questions, we know when we're sitting at the table of greatness. And guess what we do? We shut up,
Yeah.
right? Like soak it up. It may not be right, it may not be wrong, but you don't learn unless you're in the room. So it's important to be in the room, right? So as we wrap up our Develop download for this week, what's one thing, one sentence, one inspiring aha moment, Chris, that you can leave our viewers with before we exit out of our download this week?
Founders create brands and leaders create brands at last.
Well, that's a bike drop, people. I have nothing else to say. So feel free to connect with Chris or I on all the social media channels. We're everywhere. Follow us at Develop Academy. And then please, 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 as you see up above, come join us over at Develop Plus. It's an app. Today is still free. Tomorrow it might not be, but join like-minded founders, leaders, developers, franchising enthusiasts. Get over there and let's share more conversations and real life events. And this has been Danielle Wright. That's Chris Brown here on this week's Develop Download.